deviser of the voice and of its hearer, and of himself, deviser of himself for company, leave it at that. He speaks of himself as of another. He says, speaking of himself, he speaks of himself as of another. Himself he devises too for company. Leave it at that. Confusion too is company up to a point. Better hope deferred than none, up to a point, till the heart starts to sicken. Company too up to a point. Better a sick heart than none, till it starts to break. So, speaking of himself, he concludes for the time being. For the time being, leave it at that. In the same dark as his creature, or in another, not yet imagined, nor in what position, whether standing or sitting or lying or in some other position in the dark. These are among the matters yet to be imagined, matters of which as yet no inkling. The test is company. Which of the two darks is the better company? Which of all imaginable positions has the most to offer in the way of company? And similarly for the other matters yet to be imagined, such as if such decisions irreversible. Let him, for example, after due imagination, decide in favour of the supine position or prone, and this in practice prove less companionable than anticipated. May he then, or may he not, replace it by another, such as huddled with his legs drawn up within the semicircle of his arms and his head on his knees, or in motion, crawling on all fours. Another in another dark, or in the same, crawling on all fours, devising it all for company, or some other form of motion. The possible encounters, a dead rat, what an addition to company that would be, a rat long dead. Might not the hearer be improved, made more companionable, if not downright human? Mentally, perhaps there is room for enlivenment, an attempt at reflection at least, at recall, at speech even, conation of some kind, however feeble, a trace of emotion, signs of distress, a sense of failure without loss of character, delicate ground, but physically, must he lie inert to the end? Only the eyelids stirring on and off, since technically they must, to let in and shut out the dark. Might he not cross his feet on and off, now left on the right, and now a little later the reverse? No, quite out of keeping. He lie with crossed feet. One glance dispels some movement of the hands, a hand, a clenching and unclenching, difficult to justify, or raise to brush away a fly. But there are no flies, then why not let there be? The temptation is great, let there be a fly for him to brush away, a live fly mistaking him for dead, made aware of its error and renewing it incontinent. What an addition to company that would be. A live fly mistaking him for dead. But no, he would not brush away the fly. You take pity on a hedgehog out in the cold and put it in an old hut box with some worms. This box with the hog inside you then place in a disused hutch, wedging the door open for the poor creature to come and go at will, to go in search of food and having eaten to regain the warmth and security of its box in the hut. There then is the hedgehog, in its box, in the hutch, with enough worms to tide it over. A last look to make sure all is as it should be, before taking yourself off to look for something else to pass the time, heavy already on your hands at that tender age. The glow at your good deed is slower than usual to cool and fade. You glowed readily in those days, but seldom for long. Hardly had the glow been kindled by some good deed on your part, or by some little triumph over your rivals, or by a word of praise from your parents or mentors, when it would begin to cool and fade, leaving you in a very short time as chill and dim as before. Even in those days, but not this day. It was on an autumn afternoon you found the hedgehog and took pity on it in the way described, and you were still the better for it when your bedtime came. Kneeling at your bedside, you included it, the hedgehog, in your detailed prayer to God to bless all you loved, and tossing in your warm bed, waiting for sleep to come, you were still faintly glowing at the thought of what a fortunate hedgehog it was to have crossed your path as it did. A narrow clay path, edged with sere box edging. As you stood there, wondering how best to pass the time till bedtime, it parted the edging on the one side and was making straight for the edging on the other when you entered its life. Now, the next morning, not only was the glow spent, but a great uneasiness has taken its place, a suspicion that all was perhaps not as it should be, that rather than do as you did, you had perhaps better let good alone and the hedgehog pursue its way. Days, if not weeks, passed before you could bring yourself to return to the hutch. You have never forgotten what you found then. You are on your back in the dark and have never forgotten what you found then. The mush, the stench. Impending for some time the following: need for company not continuous, moments when his own unrelieved a relief, intrusion of voice at such, similarly image of hearer, similarly his own, regret then at having brought them about, and problem how dispel them, finally what meant by his own unrelieved, what possible relief. Leave it at that for the moment. Let the hearer be named H. spirit, H. You, H, are on your back in the dark, and let him know his name, no longer any question of his overhearing, of his not being meant, though logically none in any case.
Of words murmured in his ear, if to him so he is, so that faintness lost,
that faint hope, to one with so few occasions to feel, so inept to feel, asking nothing better in so far as he can ask anything, than to feel nothing. Is it desirable? No. Would he gain thereby incompanionability? No. Then let him not be named H. Let him be again as he was, the hearer, unnameable, you. Imagine closer the place where he lies, within reason. To its form and dimensions a clue is given by the voice afar, receding afar, or there with abrupt saltation, or resuming there after pause, from above and from all sides, and levels with equal remoteness at its most remote, and no time from below, so far, suggesting one lying on the floor of a hemispherical chamber of generous diameter with air dead center. How generous? Given faintness of voice, at its least faint, some 60 feet should suffice, or 30 from ear to any given point of encompassing surface. So much for form and dimensions, and composition. What and where clue to that, if any anywhere? Reserved for the moment. Basalt is stepped in, black basalt, but reserved for the moment. So he imagines to himself as voice and hearer pale, but further imagination shows him to have imagined ill. For with what right affirm of a faint sound that it is less faint, made fainter by farness, and not a true faint near at hand? Or of a faint fading to fainter, that it recedes and not in situ decreases, if with none, then no light from the voice on the place where our old hearer lies. In immeasurable dark, contourless, leave it at that for the moment, having only what kind of imagination is this so reason-ridden? A kind of his own. Another, devising it all for company, in the same dark as his creature, or in another, quick, imagine, the same. Might not the voice be improved, made more companionable, say, changing now for some time, past though no tense, in the dark, in that dim mind, all at once over and in train and to come, but for the other, say, for some time past, some improvement, same flat tone as initially imagined, and same repetitiousness, no improving those, but less mobility, less variety of faintness, as if seeking optimum position from which to discharge with greatest effect the ideal amplitude for effortless audition, neither offending the ear with loudness, nor through converse excess constraining it to strain. How far more companionable such an organ than it initially in haste imagined, how far more likely to achieve its object, to have the hearer have a past and acknowledge it. You were born on an Easter Friday after long labour. Yes, I remember. The sun had not long sunk behind the larches. Yes, I remember. As best to a road, the drop must strike unwavering upon the place beneath. The last time you went out, the snow lay on the ground. You, now on your back in the dark, stand that morning on the sill, having pulled the door gently to behind you. You lean back against the door with bowed head, making ready to set out. By the time you open your eyes, your feet have disappeared, and the skirts of your greatcoat come to rest on the surface of the snow. The dark scene seems lit from below. You see yourself at that last outset, leaning against the door, with closed eyes, waiting for the word from you to go, to be gone. Then, the snow-lit scene, you lie in the dark with closed eyes, and you see yourself there as described, making ready to strike out and away across the expanse of light. You hear again the click of the door pulled gently to, and the silence before the steps can start. Next thing, you are on your way across the white pasture, a frolic with lambs in spring and strewn with red placenta. You take the course you always take, which is a beeline for the gap or rugged point in the quickset that forms the western fringe. Thither, from your entering the pasture, you need normally from 1,800 to 2,000 paces, depending on your humour and the state of the ground. But on this last morning, many more will be required, many, many more. The beeline is so familiar to your feet that if necessary they could keep to it, and you sightless with error on arrival of not more than a few feet north or south. And indeed, without any such necessity, unless from within, this is what they normally do, and not only here. For you advance, if not with closed eyes, though this as often as not, at least with them fixed on the momentary ground before your feet. That is all of nature you have seen, since finally you bowed your head. The fleeting ground before your feet, from time to time, you do not count your steps anymore, for the simple reason they number each day the same, average day in day out the same, the way being always the same. You keep count of the days, and every 10th day multiply and add. Your father's shade is not with you anymore. It fell out long ago. You do not hear your footfalls anymore. Unhearing, unseeing, you go your way, day after day, the same way, as if there were no other anymore. For you, there is no other anymore. You used never to halt, except to make your reckoning, so as to plod on from naught anew. This need removed, as we have seen, there is none in theory to halt any more, save perhaps a moment at the outermost point to gather yourself together for the return, and yet you do, as never before, not for tiredness. You are no more tired now than you always were, not because of age. You are no older now than you always were, and yet you hold as never before, so that the same 100 yards you used to cover in a matter of 3 to 4 minutes may now take you anything from 15 to 20. The footfalls unbidden in mid-step or next for lift cleaves to the ground, bringing the body to a stand, then a speechlessness whereof the gist. Can they go on? Or, better, Shall they go on? The barest gist, stilled when finally, as always hitherto they do. You lie in the dark with closed eyes and see the scene, as you could not at the time. The dark cope of sky, the dazzling land, you at the standstill in the midst, the quarter boots sunk to the tops, the skirts of the greatcoat resting on the snow, in the old bowed head, in the old block hut speechless misgiving. Halfway across the pasture on your beeline to the gap, the unerring feet fast. You look behind you as you could not then and see their trail, a great swerve, with the shins, almost as if all at once, the heart too heavy, in the end too heavy.